could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Yeah, and times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you, the door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today and learn the part and join the play. The world is here, let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted. You know, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
Good morning and welcome back to the channel Grand Colombia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live here in Armenia, Colombia. And we got a lot to talk about today. And I know some people are freaking out. Some justification for it, but should be okay. We'll see. But let's, I have a lot to do. It was a very, very busy week. I've been feeling great. Therefore, I've been out pretty much every day, most of the day, and got a lot done. But let's start with the weather. It's about 79 degrees. It's going to be a little toasty today. Should have a high of 84. That'll be at peak time when the sun's, you know, like at its deadliest. So make sure you got your sunscreen or wear a hat, or better yet, be somewhere inside in the afternoon. That's, you know, it's my favorite thing. I do all the morning runs. Low of 63. That'll be about 5 o'clock in the morning. And exchange rate, 39.05. It's kind of been bouncing around 39. I think it got to 39.59 and 39.05. It's just been all around that range, which is not bad. Not like our magical moments, but considering, not bad. All right, let's let me run through the chat here, and then I'll start talking about things. See, I have a link here for the Colombian Coffee Adventures channel. It is right there. You'll find it near the top. And Yuka, thank you. And I have something to talk about today with a little photo that will pertain to you. Jerry, I'm not liking today's title. Yeah, many people. And anonymous contribution, thank you very much. And this is what I put in YouTube. It's, well, you can read it. It was just me. What we're doing today. Let's see. Michael Meyer, good morning. If you're new to the channel, feel free to use the live chat. Just, you know, be cool. Sebastian, how you doing? Daylight savings. Yeah, what's up with that? Turtle, here in Socorro. Welcome all. How you doing? Greetings from Finland. Mike Jarvis, good morning all. It's Mike's fault that we're going to have this topic today. So send him the hate mail. John from Pereira. How you doing, John? And there we go. Good morning from Agua Chica. Current temperature 98. Hell with that. Good morning. Do you have AC? Yes, don't like the negative title. Yeah, no one's going to like the negative title, but it's not clickbait. Don't have AC. Don't really have any need for it. When it's at its hottest, I do have a fan. If I turn the fan on, it's more than enough. I don't like hot, but you don't need AC, even on the hottest days. So at least places I've lived, I haven't had to. Got me 2 AC split units. Well, you know, where you are, I would too. Douglas, hello from Minnesota and welcome. Like seeing new people once in a while. Renee from Brussels, how are you doing? No NATO jokes today. Okay, let's get to the, well, let's get to, outside camera. There we go. Right now it's overcast, as you can see. Man, that's a bright car. What is he, highlighter pink? Okay, enough of that. All right, first of all, I'm going to cover some things that happened today or this week. I meant this week. Local things to do. What did I do and things like that. Then, as always, we'll do some news items and then we're going to get to the topic. I'm guessing probably in about 25, 30 minutes or so. We had our coffee meeting at a new place called Anlu. And I've got some video. I'm not gonna run some video, but it was a very nice coffee shop. They have some unique coffees. We all tried a pour over of a fermented kind of coffee bean. It was quite interesting. I had previously bought a bag of similar. The one we tried was a 90-day fermented. The one I bought was a 120-day fermented. Pretty eye-opening. Great place to go. We're going to be there next week, but then we've got another place probably the week after. I put up 3 videos in the Colombian Coffee Adventures channel. I'm not prepared to start the format that I've discussed probably till the middle or end of April, but I've got a lot of clips, so I wanted to get them up. So I got 3 up. I've got 2 or 3 more that need to be edited, and they'll be going up this week, next week. So I do have a trip to Cali. I've got to go to Cali Friday, but I'm going to be back later Saturday. So between busy this week and doing some video clips in my weekend trip to Cali and then next coffee time, I don't think I'm going to have time to get any editing done this week. So it's probably the week after you'll start to see more on that channel. And the reason I mention, I mean, it's also about Colombia. So if you're interested in the things that I do, you're going to be interested in that channel because like right now, we did a video. We went to 3 different cafes with Emil and Jennifer. I asked them to go, so we went to 3 different cafes. I had not been to 2 of the 3. They had not been to any of the 3. And so when we're all done, it was like, okay, pick your favorite. And it was pretty eye-opening. And the first one was a total shock to me. I had no idea. I mean, I go by it all the time. It's not that far from me. It's, and the place was awesome. And I just always assumed it was some, you know, rickety tabled plastic chair kind of place. But it was great. So that video's up, and it'll be playing around with different ideas like that until I can actually settle on the format of doing some things about a coffee farm, and then taste testing some coffee, and then some coffee tips. So that's the format that's planned at this point. Let's see. I covered that. Oh, and I had a bit of an issue. Let me, and I've been asked about this. What about that new camera? What about that new camera? Okay, I got a couple things to say about it. Here's my old one. This was the Osmo Pocket 1. And you'll see it has button, 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 button. And backwards here, 4 buttons. And this is the new Osmo Pocket 3. Now it is larger, but it's really good that it's larger. Everywhere that it's bigger, it was a huge benefit. You'll see at the head, it's got a much bigger sensor. It's got a much bigger screen that flips sideways. And we've got 2 buttons to deal with instead of 4, which is a good thing. But you have to understand that I used this until it was acting up and got almost unusable. I used this for about 3 years. These buttons became second nature. This is not only different, but even the buttons that are there are opposite of what the old one was. So until I get used to this, it's easy for me to hit the wrong button. So what's the bottom line? What does that mean? I've lost, for 2 different videos, 2 important clips, one for each one. Nothing to do with the camera, totally has to do with me. So there's that. And when you see the 3 cafes video, on the last one, you'll see where it says, oh, lost the video clip of them trying it out. yeah, only one of the keys. But what are you going to do? And I'm not going to throw that one away because everything else was certainly pertinent. And you didn't really miss much because, how many times can you go, okay, that's awesome. So, okay, there's that. And it was a lot of fun. Now, Juka, there's a YouTube show that's been on for at least 10 years, and it's called Good Mythical Morning. I don't know if you've heard of it, but they do a lot of different things. And one of the things they do is pick some type of food, and then they'll come up with, where in the world is this particular dish made from this food? Where is it from? They'll have a map, they throw darts at it. It's kind of a comedy show. And this week it was sausage. Where in the world? And so what we had, if you see down at the bottom where I clumsily circled in blue, I don't know if you can read it, but it says Finland. And it's got a dish there that was, according to them, I mean, technically sausage, but they said it was almost like a hot dog or maybe like a knackwurst kind of thing. But we'll say sausage. And it was maybe a cream sauce. They had trouble describing it. They liked it, but this apparently is something very common in Finland. And of course, I thought of you. All right. What else we got here? Finland, cream gravy, sausage. Covered that. Did those things. Okay. Now we're going to get to the news. Let's see. Rob, good morning. You're late. Where did I buy them? The cameras, I think you mean. This one I bought, I think Amazon, and this one was a channel contribution. Mike, Roberto, you can do the 425 standing on your head. Almost there. Mr. Benley, good day. How you doing? Gail, good morning from Northern California. How you doing? Okay, let's get on with the news. First headline. This is actually a question that comes up a lot. How's the water in Armenia? Headlines, sometimes they're translated and maybe sometimes it's not quite there. Armenian water, does it still register levels of contamination, and is it suitable for consumption? All right, what that's talking about is for the past couple years, there was a concerted effort. I have no knowledge of cream sausage here, but what I know, okay, yeah, all right. It's on the last Good Mythical Morning episode, so if you're interested. Where was I? Oh, water quality. So in the north, the water quality's been good. Plus, if you live in a building, it goes through its own filtration system. Uh, so they all have plants because they have to generate water pressure to get up to the top floors. And when they have that plant, filtration is part of it. But in the south, it's where the oldest plumbing was, and there was some plumbing that was just basically kind of contaminated, and was notorious that if you were in the south, you don't really drink the water out of the tap. I mean, you could, but you could have some problems. You know, bacteria could be in those pipes. In the north, I mean, I've lived here over 5 years, and I drink out of the tap, and I never have any problem. But the plumbing in the north is a lot newer. So for the last handful of years, they've been going through and replacing all over the place wherever there was a need, and that's why you would see. I even reported some here. Okay, today from 8 till 2 o'clock there'll be water outages in these 5 barrios, you know, that kind of thing. And that's the reason. So they've been going through all this, and it's been accomplished. And there's questions. People are saying, well, they don't want to, particularly in the south, they don't want to trust the water. And they're saying, well, it's still contaminated. And they're saying, no, it's not. We've done that work. And there was one comment that kind of made me laugh. This woman was saying, well, you can't trust it because they get it out of the river, and there's places downriver that people put their sewage directly into the river. Well, one, I don't know that that's the case. I've never seen anywhere where that's occurring, but I suppose there's some parts of the river that downstream of the water treatment plant where they got some tin shacks, who knows. However, it was clarified by the woman who's in charge of the water treatment plant. She went through the lengthy explanation of the type of filtration, the treatment that it gets, and the water quality when it leaves that plant. You know, it's great quality. So anybody concerned, that's the latest on it. Oops. All right. Next one. This was kind of big news here. This was a crime wannabe. Now, you've heard me mention a number of times about Montenegro. It's not far from Armenia. And criminals keep trying to set up, they want to get a foothold in Candio, and it's always in Montenegro. This guy they've been trying to catch for a little while, Nacho Rios. And what he was doing was he was setting up a local criminal operation and basically hiring underage people for the same reason in the U.S. they try to get underage, because they fall into a different category if they're caught by the police. He was involved, he was trying to be big man, basically. And I guess he got to be big man for a little while, but he's no longer big man. He was caught, and he's going away for a very long time. And again, notice they always put the criminal back to you when they do that newspaper photo. But then when you go to the most wanted poster, which is to the right of that, they show the face, because you're going to have to show the face. Okay. Still in the news because everybody is struggling. Is it profitable to live in Armenia? In February, it was the second city with the highest inflation in the coffee region. It's interesting because the highest is inflation is Pareda. Armenia is right there. All of them are very close to each other, so the ranking is almost meaningless. but Praeda and Armenia previously were the lowest priced, and so things are kind of balancing out. It also matters when you got hit. We've been hit hard this year, where it was kind of we were really ahead of the game up until this year, and it just makes it more painful because when we took a jump, we had to take a bigger jump to kind of get where everybody else is. Oh, this is pretty interesting. This lady here in this picture, she's done she spent 3 or 4 years on this research project. She's out of the University of Candio, and it's all about frogs. And so I saw a translated, condensed version of her study. Her study it seems to be quite lengthy, and I'm kind of poo-pooing it until I actually start reading it, and it was kind of fascinating. Her study is to figure out right-handed or left-handed frogs, what does it mean? And she's determined a lot of things, and it points to other studies where animals will, like humans, will be right-handed or left-handed. Well, animals can do that. But what she found are there are 4 types of frogs in general. You got tree frogs, climbing frogs, you've got jumping frogs, and swimming frogs. And the favoritism to one side or the other is in the tree and climbing, but in the jumping and swimming, there's no favoritism at all. Kind of makes sense, or they'd be swimming in circles. But I know you're probably going, yeah, so what? It's frogs. Who cares? And I get you. The problem is, I read some of that report, and it was kind of interesting. I'm just kind of boring, and so I can't really, give it the due that it should have. But it's there in case you ever want to look it up. And she's made news worldwide in that community, which is a big thing if you're here in Candio, Colombia. And people in Europe are saying your name. All right. And the last news item before we get to the topic. Yeah, I've really seen prices go up in the last few months, Mike, at least where I shop. Yeah, absolutely. This year we're getting hit hard. Okay. Fortunately, we had a little bit of a Social Security increase, but it was pretty much washed out by how everything jumped. So, okay, this one. Oh, it's a clip. Let's see what to do in Finlandia and Zapatoka. Let me go back and start over. 2 of the most beautiful towns in the world. All right, so in 2023, the municipalities of Finlandia and Zapatoka, Santander were chosen as 2 of the most beautiful towns in the world during the 25th General Assembly of the World Tourism Bureau. And this is where they're located, and that Zapatoka is right next to Socorro, where Turtle has moved to, and of course Finlandia is right here. And these are some of the things, the tower that they just rebuilt I talked about last week. They've commandeered Encanto the movie. This is in Zapatoka. There's all kinds of mines, or what do you call them, caves, and it's just gorgeous. There's caverns and endless waterfalls, and it's kind of Colombia in general, but it was nice to see that article. All right, now we're going to get to let me look at the chat. Let's see. Escobar, former associate, is arrested. Wonder what associate you mean. Is it the one that was served his life sentence in Germany and he is now out and free? He wasn't such a bad guy, actually. Mike, I've seen prices go up. Yeah, we covered that. Here in California, you can't leave the grocery store without spending at least $200 for a week's worth of groceries. True, I get where you're coming from, and you say, well, what are you complaining about down there? Everything's so cheap. Well, when you're here for a while and you're living on that economy and you're on a fixed income, you're living in this economy. We're not living in the U.S. economy. And when you come here, you're in the U.S. economy, and you come here and you've got all this extra money. You seem to think because the price is so much lower than what you used to. But when you cut that cord and you end up living here for a period of time, and if you're on a limited income, you really take on this economy. And the scale is approximately 1 to 4. So if you're spending $200 a week for groceries, that would be the equivalent of me spending $50 a week for groceries. And in fact, that's pretty close to what I'll spend in groceries. So, it's all relative, but it works out. What's the name of the newspaper you cite? I didn't cite it, but you can email. It's always the same. It's the Condillo paper, and from there there was a link, and so I looked at it. That wasn't in the paper. I don't remember where it was. You'll have to hunt like I did, but if you go to that article, you should find a pointer. Water turned frogs gay. Except, like all the conspiracy theories, it turns out that there was a chemical that boosted estrogen, and maybe technically what he said wasn't true, but it definitely, that chemical definitely has had a feminizing effect. So, it wasn't all wrong. Arrived last Thursday to live in Armenia permanently. Congratulations. What kind of visa are you here on? Congrats, Ron. Okay. Let's get to the big one. All right, first I'll give you a little backstory. Pre-COVID. When I came here, it was pre-COVID, and I got pension visa. And pension visa in that time was extremely easy. The U.S. Embassy did most of the work as far as verifying things go. Basically, you just needed a passport and some photos and your letter of income, and that was it. You didn't have to apostille, nothing. And it's always been in the law, at least within recent memory, that when it actually goes to Bogota and they're determining your eligibility for the visa, they have the option, the person who handles that file, the option of assigning a 1 year, 2 year, or 3 year. And they always gave 3 years. So I got a 3 year, and when I got it renewed, I got another 3 year. Well, I'm actually on my last year, but I didn't use it because I went ahead and applied for the resident visa as soon as I hit 5 years. I had another year that I could have gone on a visa, but I wanted to get the thing started because of the way things are changing. The sooner you get into residency, the safer you are for a number of things. So after COVID, what happened was the big push to have medical insurance. So around COVID time, it was mandatory to have insurance when you arrived here. Before, they didn't ask, they didn't care. And once you got your visa before, you just go ahead and sign up for the insurance here, you're good to go. As a matter of fact, at one time it was mandatory. So then after COVID, we've got to have this traveler's insurance. And what they started doing was, because your traveler's insurance was a limited period of time, they would only give you for your first visa 1 year instead of the 2 or 3 years. They would give you 1 year. Well, that kind of sucked, but then, the next one would come up. The problem is, during that time, about 1.5 years ago, they changed the laws. And so where a number of people would have got the next one is 3 year, they ended up getting 1 year again. And I'm not going to go into the visa laws. We've covered it. You can see it online. There'll be a bullet point. It's all over the place. You know, you got to get a apostille now. The U.S. Embassy decided they're not going to do anything to help anybody anymore. You know, so you kind of have to do it all. It's still not that big a deal. And when they increased the requirements, they were really just coming up from almost nothing to being more on par with what much of the world requires. Many places requires much more. So, you know, you could look at it, say, well, yeah, I got to do a lot more than I had to before. On the other hand, it's no worse than if I were in, you know, 100 other different countries. Except this. In the law that came out, they explicitly said that if you're on a pension, you are not going to be eligible for the Social Security retirement program here. And it made sense. They didn't want any confusion. You're a pensioner, but you're not related to the pension here. So they wanted to make that clear in the law, and they did. And so people were still getting 2 or 3 months of traveler's insurance to get their visa. And then once they got their visa in hand, they could then sign up for the EPS, the health insurance, and then they were good to go from there. And that's been working fine. Now the problem comes in to this year. Now, last week it was brought up that that's not the case anymore. And Mike had mentioned it. And I said, no, I just talked to Luz not that long ago because somebody had asked me something. And so I go back to the source and say, you know, what's the deal here? And she emailed me back, actually said this is what we have to do. I said, okay, so it's what we already knew. The problem was, I was thinking I just talked to her, but time flies. I talked to her in November. As of this year, they've changed, except nothing changed, but when they're approving these, it's changed. And this is how somebody in Bogota, and I have hopes that they will look at this because it's really going to hurt people. But somebody in Bogota has changed their interpretation of the law. So instead of being exactly what the law says, they're interpreting it to be something else. Now, think of it this way. In the United States, you have Social Security. Social Security handles the retirement and disability and things like that. And when it comes to the health, you've got Medicare, Medicaid. They're not the same. They're not the same thing. And you can, because they're single payer in the U.S., you also have Obamacare. So you could compare it to that. You say, you know, the Obamacare is not Social Security and vice versa. Well, here, the EPS system has under it the retirement Social Security system. They call it Social Security, that system, and it has the healthcare system. Separate departments. And the law specified specifically Social Security. It did not say EPS health. So what they started doing this year is saying it's both. So let me show you this an example. This is an example of a visa. They would actually put it right on the visa. So you can see right here, if you read Spanish, you'll understand, you know, what that's saying. You notice it says the Colombian Social Security, but I did an interpretation. So it allows you to study. It does not allow you to work or join the Colombian Social Security system. It doesn't say the Colombian healthcare system. They are now, because they're under one umbrella of the EPS, they're now interpreting, forget it says Social Security, and now let's consider it CPS. So what does that mean? So the visas this year, they're telling people you have to have, to get a 1-year visa of retirement, you have to have 1 year of traveler's insurance. Now, there's potentially some ways around this, but on the face of it, that means To get to the 5 years to sign up for residency, you're going to have 4 years of a pension visa. That means each year you're going to have to apply for, not that bad, but obtain and pay for the pension visa. Where before it was 2, now it's 4. Plus the fees have nearly doubled. So before, where it was not quite $500, now it's not quite $1,000. Plus you've got, maybe if you get the apostille, depending on how you do it, it could even be more. So now you're looking at, instead of under $1,000 for the entire process up to the residency, now you're looking at potentially $4,000 just in the cost of the visa. Not at once, but each year. That means every year comes around, you get the privilege of paying almost $1,000. Now there's ways to mitigate that. I don't suggest it on your first one, but when you get your second one, they now have it set up where you could do it online. Before it was very problematic, but after you're here for a while, you get familiar with certain things. You should be able to work through it and save yourself a little money. The processing isn't that much, but you can save a little bit. Now, before, you needed traveler's insurance for 2 or 3 months on your first visa, just to be here. Now they want it for a whole year. So instead of that little bit for a couple months, now they want it a year long. So if you have the cost of the visa every year, and now every year you also have to have traveler's insurance because they've changed the interpretation and they want to include the health system, this could cost $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 over the course of the 4 to 5 year span to the residency. Once you get the residency, you know, all bets are off. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. But it could be problematic. And you can say, well, it's so much cheaper here to live in Colombia. There's so many benefits to it. You know, it's worth doing. And that's actually a pretty good argument. But if you're living kind of closer to the borderline of income, it can be a problem. Now, and that is what they're doing. And so last week I said, no, they're not doing that. I talked to a person, and well, that was in November. I checked again, and she said, yeah, well, this year, this is what they're doing. And the people processing it, whether you get an attorney, bad idea, or whether you get a visa processor, good idea, they're not making the decision. All they're doing is gathering up what they're told to gather up in order to get it in there. And they put it together in a package and have you keep providing things so that when it goes through, and you're not wasting having to time expire or pay more fees or whatever. So they're basically organizing and you're kind of look over your shoulder protector sort of thing, which is valuable. But they're not making the ultimate decision. They don't decide, you know, what I just told you. They have, they could be wrong all day long in Bogota and doing something outside of what that law is. It doesn't matter. They're not going to give you a visa unless you comply to what they said. So how do we, and it's a different visa. I'm talking particularly about pension visa right now. All right. 2 potential ways around it. I'm not recommending this. This is not legal advice, but I've been thinking about it. There may be others. If anybody has any, you know, feel free to let me know or put it on the Facebook page, Adventures in Gran Colombia, or whatever. 1, you go ahead and you get yourself a policy for the year, you get your visa. Once you get your visa, you cancel the rest of that policy and get your money back. You might, you know, if you spend $1,000, maybe you get $800 back. But what if I actually get sick? Healthcare is so cheap here. you'd have to have like some major issues to go through that $800. You know, when a house call is $25, and I mean, it's ridiculous how inexpensive it is. Doctors only make like middle class, upper middle class money. You don't see rich doctors. Everything is very cheap. So that's one way. Can you get in trouble? It's possible, although I think about it, I'm not sure how. How would they know? It's not a policy in Colombia. They verified it at the beginning, so I don't know. That's why I say, don't take my word. Don't run out and do this. I'm just thinking maybe that's a way around it. And when it comes to traveler's insurance, it's worth putting some time into figuring it out. Such as if you have an American Express, and even if you don't, maybe get one. Back in the day when I had American Express and I traveled a lot, just by the nature of having that card, I had traveler's insurance. I didn't have to get other insurance. And maybe other cards have the same thing, or maybe from one bank there's 5 different cards to choose from, and one of them will have that. So I would invest some time in taking a look at that, because you might have traveler's insurance and not have to pay a dime beyond what you're already doing. So that's one way. Another is something that was brought up by somebody who watches this regularly and was at our coffee meeting. When you sign up for EPS, you just directly sign up. EPS is in health insurance, is in the Colombian monitored private or public, public system. However, they have third-party brokerages here, and if I don't want to deal with this bureaucracy directly, I can go to a third-party broker and say, sign me up for health insurance with Sura, for example. And I know 2 people that have done that. Sign me up. Well, you weren't permitted, but the third-party brokerage is actually signing up for it, and then you're on that plan. So that's a possibility. Another method: Photoshop a healthcare insurance policy. Yeah, I'm not sure that that might work actually. On the other hand, it could blow up in your face. And keep in mind, the problem is, if you're caught fraudulently doing something, you will never get a visa. So I don't recommend that. And I'm not even recommending, cancel the policy thing. I just think that potentially is a loophole. And if you look into it, you may find, I actually have a couple emails out to ask if that is a loophole or if that'll get you in trouble. When I get answers, I'll get back to you on it. But it's bad enough that the visas cost more, and they've kind of rigged the game so you have to get one every year. Why are they interpreting it that way? I think honestly, because the government needs money to operate, because they're getting hit also, and this country doesn't tax that much on that many things, and they're getting squeezed hard, and they don't get to. Well, they could, I suppose, but they don't run out and print a bunch of money to make it worthless. So this is an issue, and I think this is just one more place that they can pick up, 4 times the money or more, from about 4 times. So it seems like it's a cash grab, but I don't know that. It's like that's my guess. I could be way off on that. What I know is that's what they're doing now. And I said it wasn't, and that's my apology. It wasn't until a few months ago when they started doing it. And because the law didn't change, I didn't see why would it be different? The law, it's been in place for the last 1.5 years. It never occurred to me that they would change an interpretation of something that was actually clear to begin with. And it's hard to get things clear to begin with in Colombia in the laws because they tend to be vague, just like if you have a conversation with somebody, it tends to be vague. But here it was very clear, it just spelled it out. All right, let's see what we have here. Gil, contribution, thank you very much, sir. I think I answered this. Do the same rules apply if you're a retiree that has purchased property? That's an investment visa, so that's something other. And I'm really just addressing a particular issue right now. Edward, marriage visa. That's certainly a way to go. But only if you were inclined to begin with. Eagle, are you paying taxes for pension income? Okay, I don't like to talk about tax things, but this comes up. This actually came up in a conversation before the video started. And I will point out one thing. If you have a pension, let's say, for example, from the United States, and you're on a pension, and in the United States, that pension, because of the threshold or whatever reason, is not taxable. So you're receiving that, and you didn't have to pay taxes on it. In Colombia, when they're talking about taxes, they're talking about taxable income. That income is not generated in Colombia, so it's not Colombian income, it's foreign income. And if that foreign income is not taxable income, it doesn't apply. However, there's so many, it isn't just that, it's complicated. It's how much you transact in your bank every month. It's how much you transact at the end of the year. It's how much you transact in a Colombian credit card. All of these things can hit certain thresholds. So you need to talk to an accountant for your specific information and determine if you should be filing for taxes. If you're filing for taxes, that doesn't mean you owe a tax. And my theory is if you're not required to file tax, don't get started, because once you file, then you're required to continue. In your first couple years here, most people have no reason to. But once you're here for a while and you get established in certain things, and maybe things change and you take on a bank account, which I did, then all of a sudden things are dialed up. When you have a resident visa, you're under different rules than when you're a non-resident. So it all is somewhat complicated. Although you read it, maybe seems simple, but it's not that simple. I recommend you abide by the law, but I will also suggest you probably don't know what the law is. You need to get an accountant. I'm actually going over some things with an accountant sometime between now and the first part of April. And if everything seems good, I might have finally an accountant that I can recommend. I hesitate on those things because professionals, whether it's lawyers or accountants, there's so many games that they will play. It's really difficult to recommend one. I'm hoping, because so far preliminarily I see that this guy isn't trying to, pad his pockets with with tricks that some others do. So that gives me hope. We've got here Cliff. Hey Cliff, how you doing? I will be renewing my pension visa January. I have 4 years by then. In January 2025 renewal, will be going into my 5th year. I have Sura. Will I be grandfather? Yeah. Everybody that already had Sura, they're not kicking them out, so you keep it. Which is another thing that's kind of, if they're specifically saying if you have a pension visa and you cannot have it, then why is it you have thousands of people that are on pension visas that have it? But again, the hope is that at some point somebody's going to realize they want retirees here, but they're operating as though they want to drive them away. Again, if I were to look back at this, for me, it wouldn't be a deal breaker, but it's also getting close. And the problem is, if you can't depend on what the rules are, that gets kind of uncomfortable. Let's see. A third party also have a pool of alleged workers for some alleged company and all get their EPS insurance as employees. That's my case, and I'm paying $150 a month. Yeah, okay. I don't know. I got mine direct. Glad to hear you're going to Cali. I'm not. I hate Cali, but it's, I always seem to end up having to go for one reason or another. And this is a good reason. I'll be moving there permanently in June. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I know you don't like the place. My girlfriend has a strong attachment. Yeah, I get that. If you're from a place, that's where you want to go. It's what you're used to. And Colombia is not cookie cutter. So one city is completely different feel, even a different language. And so, if you're born and raised in Cali, you're going to be comfortable there with your people. You go to another city and you're going to feel like you're out of your element. So I completely get that. But it's Cali. All the things you mentioned about Cali are accurate, I think. But there are many nice places in the city. That's true. Also, shopping malls seem to be a wonderful family experience. Yeah, I won't argue that. Like every city, you've got you've got horrible areas and you've got beautiful areas in most every city. And Cali has some amazing areas. The problem for me, I think, has a lot to do with how they run the city. It's like if you go to Popayan, you go, and that's the one with everything's white, which is bizarre, and I don't like it. It's kind of boring. But you go there, and it's spotless clean. You'd think you were in Germany. Everything's clean and organized. You come to Armenia, and everything's clean. People that come here to visit, they comment, wow, how do they keep it so clean? Because they don't make it dirty. We get a little graffiti once in a while, but it's rare. You hardly ever get graffiti, and it usually gets cleaned up. You go to Cali, and it's a mess. They have this thing, and I've been there different times. Somebody said, well, it's because, it's garbage pickup day. Well, every day is garbage not pickup day. They take their trash, and they throw it in the street. Now, I don't mean they put it on the curb next to the street, and if it's got a median in the middle with the two lanes, they'll take the garbage and set it out in the median. And the problem is, well, we'll have loose dogs here in Armenia once in a while, and generally it's because maybe the owner is working in this little store and he takes his dog to work, and the dog doesn't want to lay at his feet all the time, so he'll go out and run up and down the street. But he's a pet. He's not out scavenging. In Cali, they have a lot. It reminds me of Ecuador. There's a lot of feral dogs that are just out there. They're not owners. You can tell. They're like walking skeletons. So it's definitely not good. And they get into the trash, and the trash gets strewn all over the place. The place is just dirty. And even some of the nice areas, you see this. Now, they have people that work and go and have to clean this up, but they can't really keep up with it. Every time I've been to Cali, which is, I don't know, somewhere around a dozen times, and most of the time, I'd stay at least overnight because it would be during travel. Like I have to stay overnight this time around. It's just not good. Plus, it's a relatively poor city as compared to. I would say it's similar to Cartagena in that way, as compared to Bucaramanga and Bogota, Medellin, or Armenia, Manizales. They're more middle, upper. Cali is on the lower end. Now, with beautiful places, with wealthy people, but the city in general has more than its share of people living at the lower end. Poverty equals crime, so your crime is higher. And so if you take, and it's hot and it's muggy. Our day here hit 84 degrees. That's a nice day there. That's, I'm looking at it and go, my God, this is close to record. A few years ago, it was a record, and it's like, we don't even have the same humidity. And I'm saying, yeah, stay inside during those few hours. Well, in Cali, it starts in the morning and ends when the sun's going down. It's just hot, uncomfortable. It's dirty. It's got crime. So I look at it and go, why? Unless if you have ties to it, if your wife or your girlfriend or something, they're all about Cali, well, then learn to like it. That's the way it is. Okay, let's see. Buses to Cali are good. Oh, that's true. That's true. Buses most everywhere. You choose the bus line. I mean, some bus lines are better than others, and some bus lines are really comfortable. When I go to Cali, I don't know right now. I prefer, when I was living in Manizales, I would hire an executive car. It was hardly any more. It was like 50 or 75 cents in dollars more than the regular fee. But you were in a private car with a couple other people, and it was a lot faster. Last I knew, they didn't have the executive service in Armenia to Cali. But they do have the smaller buses, and I prefer those. Even though the larger buses, you got the seats that kick back to a semi-reclined bed, and you got the TV screen and music, and that's all great. But the smaller buses are faster, and I just want to get there and get my stuff done. But yep, the bus system here is pretty awesome. Hope to see you at Cali. Armenia is better. Cali is hot. Yeah, exactly. And what did I see? An anonymous contribution. I'm just seeing that. Didn't mean to overlook you. Thank you very much. That's actually going to somebody says, where's the money going? I try to explain as I go. Maybe I'll itemize and put on a website somewhere. But for example, this week I'm out doing videos. Just paying for the taxi and paying for the coffees cost me, and just for the video for the 3 cafes, that alone cost me 150,000 pesos. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot to you, but that's a week's groceries. It's like there's cost, and if you rent a car, oh my God. I got to talk about car rentals too. The price has doubled, and they have all these extra things, and it's gotten crazy. Anyway, off topic. Another change in the third-party Sura, but you'll have to clue me in on that. I'd be careful about depending on credit card policy to cover your medical. Might only cover emergency issue. Well, of course you want to be careful and you want to check it out. And I don't even know if it exists now, but back when I had Amex and I was telling you that, it covered not just emergency, it was traveler's insurance. It was part of the program. That doesn't mean it hasn't changed. That doesn't mean it's even offered anymore. So of course you have to look at that because it's got to be accepted here. You can't just say, well, it has to fit their parameters. Craig, how you doing? Lurker here. Yeah, the previous changes turned out to be a deal breaker for me. What will they change next? I don't know. I have a question though. Did you mean you would need the full year private insurance for each full year before residency, or only the first year? Well, I don't want to, pretty much as I said it, when you get the visa, if they give you 1 year, you've got to have to get that 1 year, you've got to have the full year of some sort of health insurance. It can be private insurance. You can actually buy into Colombia's insurance plans and do that. Generally, traveler's insurance is cheaper, but it doesn't have to be traveler's insurance. The biggest feral dog and cat area I've seen in Colombia is Salento, much more than Cali. Yes and no. Again, I don't know if they're feral. I'll go there, I'll see dogs. I've been there dozens of times. I'll see dogs, but these dogs, they have owners. And it's kind of different. I mean, when I lived in Cuenca, Ecuador, one of the reasons I moved out of Cuenca to a smaller town was I just couldn't take the dogs anymore. You know, they were barking all night. They were running in packs of dozens of dogs, and you know, I couldn't sleep. 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, they're still barking. They're tearing things up. These had no owners. These were all dogs that people would take, and aren't they cute? And then as soon as they get bigger and they start eating food that they have to pay for, they kick them out in the street. You know, and so nobody cared. You know, they would talk, oh, animals, but in Ecuador, it was all talk and no action, and so it was a serious problem there. I mean, it doesn't, unless you go to Peru, it doesn't really get much worse than what that was. And then you come here to Colombia, where they talk about loving animals, but they have leash laws and they do all kinds of things. You know, you have to pick up after your pet. No, there's all sorts of things that take place that kind of prove out that they actually care about their animals. And street dogs are not really an issue in general. But if you go to small towns, pueblos, everybody knows everybody. The population's small. Everybody knows who those dogs belong to. So it can give you an impression, but if you actually live there, or if you talk to somebody who lives there and ask them about it, I think you'll find that it's not as bad as you might think it is. I went to Colima Lake with my girlfriend in January. What a fantastic place that was. The government built a water park. It was truly amazing. Nice. Sorry, maybe I'm slow, but I'm still confused. I get that the new enforcement says 1 year at the time until residency, 1 year at a time. No, it doesn't say 1 year at a time, but that's how they're applying it. It's still 1, 2, or 3 years at the discretion of the person in Bogota. The problem is they're basing that discretion on your insurance, and now they've kind of locked it in because they're requiring insurance other than the Colombian EPS system. So that's kind of forcing you into getting a new visa every year for the 4 visas until you get to the residency. Because in your 5th year, you apply for residency. So you don't go for another pension visa, you then go for a residency visa. And again, I don't think this is going to hold long, but I don't know. I mean, you never know. It's such an absurd, on the face of it, misinterpretation. And the proof of it was, for almost a year and a half, you know, they did it one way, and it's only just this year, it's like we've changed up the interpretation. Yeah, but you didn't change the law, and the words are still the same. So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking somebody at some point is going to look at this and say, we're not getting as many retirees as we'd like, so we're kind of grabbing that money up front, but now we're losing that monthly income year after year. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that, but I don't know. We'll see. Is it a fair assumption that EPS is no longer available for new pensionados until they qualify for residency? Yes, that's exactly what they're interpreting it as. It's not fair to say, and it's not even written that way in the law, but that's how they are interpreting it. So now you can get it, see if you can sign up for it, and if they accept you or not, then I don't know. This is all this year, and it wasn't even like January 1st. I think it actually began last month. So it's all pretty new. It's why I didn't even know about it last week. So no OPS at all until residency. That's a big deal. I didn't say that. I said there's brokers, and you got to hear everything I'm saying. You can go to a broker and you can get it. And I don't even know that you can't get EPS, but well, I don't want to repeat. It's everything that I said, and there's also private insurance here that's not even much more than the EPS insurance. So, for example, if your EPS insurance is $37, you can get a private plan that's actually even better than that. That's going to run you about $70 or $75 a month. So there's ways around this. It's just that how it's been done is changed, and I'm giving the reasons it changed. I'm not saying that's the end of it. Now, here's the thing. I don't care if people come here or not. I'm here. I'm happy. And I'm not trying to convince people to come here. Otherwise, I wouldn't even talk about this kind of stuff. I want you to know, because if you're considering it, this is something you need to know. And what it means is this is all new. I just found out about some of the details this week, and I want to tell you right away, but there's more things that need to be answered. And I know you want definitive answer, but I haven't had time yet. So, we'll see how it shakes out. I've mentioned several things already that I think will solve this problem. But again, give me a little time, or you take the time and kind of figure it out. All right. It's surprising how many international people fly to Cali. Flight was 50% non-Colombian. No, Cali is a famous place, and it's famous for especially salsa. I mean, it's the capital of the world for salsa. It's a famous place. I'm not the least bit surprised. Cartagena, which is really a crap hole. I mean, it has a nice beach, and along the beach, it's got some nice restaurants. But the city itself, it's a pit, and that's a huge destination for people to go to the Spanish Fort, the history of it. Of course, you get there and you find out, oh my God. You better like the beach, because that's where you're going to want to stay. That was a loophole. You don't know that Bogota would accept that brokered thing or not. Look, you can pick apart everything I'm saying. I've told you the best of what I know in the circumstances. I know two people that have done that. So is that a loophole that I don't know if they've done it or not? Well, I know two that did it. But do I know all the details? No, and I've said that, and I don't want to keep repeating myself. I get why you keep asking. I don't blame you. On the other hand, I've told you everything that I know, and I think I've thrown enough breadcrumbs down, so that maybe you could figure it out if you don't want to wait. In case of emergency, they will probably change their interpretation. If not, after a year, go visit Argentina and come back for 180 days more as a tourist. Yeah, actually, that's, half a year here, half a year somewhere else actually eliminates all of that. So that's actually a good point. I was going to do that until I found out I was going to live in Ecuador half a year. Thank God I didn't, and then half a year here. But then it turned out medically I could not live there. So I just moved here because it's where I wanted to be anyway. Years ago, I recall Colombia had a lifetime visa that people paid for and had passport stamps. Then out of the blue, they changed those to 5 years. I don't remember anything like that. When I was here 20 some years ago, that wasn't an option. I looked into it actually back then, and 22 years ago, that wasn't one of the options. That I don't remember anything like that. But laws change. They change in every country. They've changed in the U.S. What was valid at one point, 10 years later can be different. You know, so Colombia is not unique in that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not defending them, but you have to take things for what they are. And which I've made it very clear that I think this is ridiculous that they're interpreting something that's not the way the law was written. um, you know, I think it's horrible that they're doing that. So I'm not defending them. I think this is they're creating a mess where there didn't need to be one. On the other hand, immigration laws everywhere. If you go back 20 years in any country, what laws are today will not be the same. Maybe before you move there. I don't know. I've never seen that. And I'm not saying you're wrong. Could very well have been. I know that there's a certain, I don't know, but there's a certain investment level that if you put whatever level that is, that you can just get your citizenship. So yeah, but I'm not rich, doesn't apply to me. They look at that and say, oh my God, look at all this income that we're going to get. Yeah, here, go ahead and take it. But it doesn't really apply to real people. We appreciate your insight every week. Thank you. Yeah, you know, I wish I didn't have to apologize. I wish it, you know, I wish it hadn't changed in the last month or so. And for all I know, it'll be back to normal next month, but I don't know that. And I want to talk about it because I think it's a real concern. And I think if you don't find a way around it, some of the things that I've suggested, which I will look more into, and I think by April I'll have a better handle on this. But, you know, I think if you don't find some of these ways that I've mentioned to be solutions, it could very well be a deal breaker. If you're somewhere around the $1,200 to $1,500 Social Security pension range, I can tell you that having to pay for that visa every year is going to put a serious bite on how you live here. If you're 15 to 2,000, it's going to be a lot easier to take. But yeah, it's certainly an issue. All right, we've gone over time. Anybody left on the stream? Holy moly. Yeah, there's a lot of people still on. So I'll take last call for questions in general, and then I'm going to go, I don't know what I'm going to do. Edit. I got videos to edit. I've got the Anlu Cafe to edit. I've got the Vastago Cafe to edit. I've got El Cafe de Eje to edit. Yeah, so I got at least 3 cafes to edit, and I've got a couple other things that I could do. Again, love the camera. Need more time with it, so I quit screwing things up. But it's pretty damn awesome. Best camera I've ever owned. I've had some nice cameras, but this thing, it's just so far ahead of the game. It's just crazy. All right. See no more questions? Don't shoot the messenger. Yeah, me. I'm the messenger. Don't shoot me. Great. I really do understand your frustration. Believe me, because I feel the same way. And when I'm talking to people trying to get answers, I kind of feel that way. Like, why don't you know? Why aren't you telling me? But because they have to do what they don't know. It's not supposed to be this way. Thank you for the latest news. You're welcome. All right, so I still got email. If anybody needs anything, you know, shoot me off an email. Please go look at the coffee channel. Leave a comment. That one I actually want to grow. So if you subscribe and if you leave a comment, all of those things will cause it. I still can't monetize it, but it will cause that channel to grow. Where this one, I always tell you, I don't care. You know, it doesn't matter. The people that want it will find it, and I'm good with that. That one needs to grow. So The link is right at the top here of this chat, at the very top, one down from the top. And it's Colombian Coffee Adventures is the YouTube, and it's the same name in Facebook. And hey, I think that's it. Well, the good news might be that Armenia won't get corrected by too many gringos. You're right. And I've been feeling weird about it because, you know, people who show up at a coffee meeting and it's like 201, they say, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Well, I'm not trying to get people to come here. Fortunately, nearest I can tell, we're only talking a few dozen, which doesn't affect anything, even in a small city like this. But I love it here, and I don't want to see it get anything like it could get. Gringos are good for Armenia. They are right now. And here's the thing. Here's really the key. It depends who they are. Now, of all the people that I've met with and shown around that actually moved here, there are only two that were scumbags they were just scumbags. One was like the ultimate scammer scumbag. The other one, I don't know. He did some scumbag things. Maybe he wasn't such a bad guy, but whatever. Everybody else, like Mike here, for example, or Turtle, these are salt of the earth people. Now, Turtle's not in this area, but he would fit in. These are good people. You know, it's like everybody might have their political views or whatever, but we don't get all carved up and tied up. I could care, you know, we're more like, you know, you like what you want, I like what I want. You like Trump, you like Biden. Who cares? It's a beautiful day. You know, it's like it's fun to talk about it if you can actually talk about it, but our life doesn't revolve around that crap. And the people that come here are very chill. And one of the problems I had in Ecuador was the people that were there they were just bitter, nasty, angry people. And they always wanted to tell people how to live. And it was like half of the people were like that. It was terrible. And you could take a place like Medellin, and I don't know, what would you say is the percent? Would you say 60%, 70, 80% of the people that go there are sexpats, or they want what they think are cheap drugs? Well, that's not going to make for a pretty good footprint when you got, on any given day, 10 to 20,000 foreigners in that city. So it's enough to create an impact, particularly since they're hovering around, you know, essentially about 3 different barrios. Then the chances of running into one is pretty high. So local people run into somebody who's a sexpat who thinks he can buy anybody, and he insults daughters and sisters and mothers, and, you know, because he has no class or couth, and thinks if he waves around a dollar bill that somebody's going to fall to his feet. You know, all of those things corrupt and destroy a place. And Medellin, it's not Colombia. It's a nice place for what it has, but it's not really Colombia. If all you know is Medellin, you don't know Colombia. Sebastian, vouch me on this. He was born here. He's been living in the U.S. for a number of years, but he's got a place here. His family is here. And I think he can back me up on this. I'm not saying don't go to Medellin. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that it has corrupted that place, so it's something other than what the rest of Colombia is. It's really a commercial operation where, you know, people there, not everybody, everything's not everything, but many people there will look at you as though you're a human ATM. You know, they kind of spot the foreigners. And you come here to Armenia, and they don't make that assumption because it's not part of their daily life. They don't even think about that. And, you know, here I am. I should probably be looking like a gringo, but nobody here really has a clue in the way they're treating me until I open my mouth and they hear how I talk, and then they realize I'm not from here. But until then, I'm treated like everybody. If I don't say anything, I might as well be Colombian. Well, you wouldn't find that in Medellin. you know, because they're spotting you there and here. They don't care. It doesn't matter. So it's a very different thing. So we certainly don't want that to happen. Oh yeah, Craig, that's true. The residency visa, exactly. It was, but you had to jump through the hoops to get to the residency and then get the residency, and that was a thing. It's like I had never intended to get citizenship because once you get the residency, all you had to do was every 5 years verify some information, but it wasn't like reapplying. It was something very simple, and now you still reapply with less requirement, but now you actually have to go through that process. So rather than be subject to potential law changes in the future, when the time comes to get citizenship, I'm definitely going to go for it, because once you're there, you're home free. Change all you want, it won't matter. So yeah, I think that's probably what you were talking about. And I've mentioned how, you know, that affected me personally, but only in that I wasn't going to bother getting citizenship, and now I'm going to. But so at least I still have that option. All right, that's it. That's enough. Let's see if we can get out of here. I made some changes. I don't know if my outro is going to work. If not, I'm just going to end the stream. So I will see you next week after my trip to Cali. And please go look at the Colombian Coffee Adventures channel, please, please. And if it sucks, tell me.